All right, so let's jump into the topic today. We're going to be talking about Social Security decisions without the stress. Now, the reason why we're hitting Social Security again is because the internet told us to. We've been doing this show for quite some time now, and we do one show on Social Security, and it instantly vaults to the #1 show.
Everybody subscribed.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So we don't even need to remind them. They've already subscribed.
No, there's more people out there.
We need more people. Subscribe.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about a couple questions today. We're going to be talking a little bit that we did in the last show about, the concern about Social Security going away. But most importantly, what we're going to be focusing on today is really when to take Social Security. How often does that come up in meetings?
Oh, every meeting.
Everyone.
Because especially whenever you start talking about retirement, they're like, all right, so when does Social Security start becoming part of the puzzle? Is it immediately, right at 62? Is it, do I wait till the very end, till they just kind of start sending me the checks, or is it somewhere in the middle? And it's constantly kind of this question.
And we try to do the math, but the challenge is we don't always know when we're going to retire, and we don't know when we're going to die. So that math always leads back to emotion.
What I'd like to touch on first is really, where does Social Security fit? So, and for the people out there that are going to be like, you're not in retirement, there's going to be a certain segment out there that I'm not trying to just come at this from a purely math perspective. I want to come at it from an emotional perspective. Mm-hmm. I want to come at this from a real income perspective in retirement. When clients come in, a investor comes in, or you're just, having a conversation, where do people normally think about, or what do they normally think about, or where does Social Security place? Is it the plan? Is it a part of the plan? Is it the foundation? Like, where does Social Security fit?
Yes.
Yes, I was going to say it is.
All
of those, and it depends on which client you're talking about and how they feel about risk and future and fear. And
I just had a moment there for a second.
That was such a loaded question.
Because normally when somebody asks me a question, I go, yes. and normally I'm the one that's thinking, but that time you guys hit it back to me, I was like, oh, that's how it feels. Didn't expect you guys to say that.
We didn't even plan that, and we all
that
did
was
it.
amazing.
Yeah.
And the truth is,
let's dig into it.
Yeah, the truth is you have people who come in and their vision of retirement is kind of through their own lens. It's very different than most people. Some people see Social Security being this additional pension with already their pension. Like I've had
if
people,
they're fortunate to have it.
Correct. Yeah, but I've had a lot of, state employees that are either, they work for the firefighters or police officers or school teachers. And realistically, their vision of retirement is like, all right, I know that I've got this state pension and Social Security, and that's what I'm going to live on. Like that's kind of how they've set out. They really didn't think about outside savings. And then you have others who they have thought about outside savings, and they just see it as a piece. Hey, this is one portion. I can rely on this for the most part, or they still feel that way now. This Social Security, that is a portion of monthly income that'll be quote unquote guaranteed. And then the rest I've got to that's what I've been saving for this lifestyle outside of that.
So to zoom out, is there a right or wrong way to look at that?
Again,
don't say yes.
Well,
don't you dare say
it really is personal. And to build on what you were saying, some people are going to be so okay when they get to retirement because they do have a pension, they do have a Social Security, and frankly, they've done pretty well as well. But this whole pension discussion is a huge one, which we don't want to do a whole session on that. But a lot of the answers on the Social Security for my clients does depend on whether they have a pension, because they do look at, to your point, I wanted to go after this because they look at that pension and Social Security as guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And that brings up a whole different discussion when they're in the planning process.
So does anybody want to answer, is there a right or wrong way of looking at it?
No, I will just lump onto it is it depends, right? So it's totally depends. It depends on the income size. So what's the lifestyle income? Is it super high? Because we obviously know that Social Security is not going to replace that $100,000 a year salary, right? But it could replace that $30,000 a year salary. So in that scenario, it makes sense. But in most cases, in someone that's been living off that higher lifestyle income, I don't see how Social Security is going to match.
I think this is why it makes Social Security so difficult to talk about, because I've tried to put you guys in a corner and you're all like, no, I'm not going into a corner. No. And then, you think, is there right or wrong? The other thing I was asking that question is, I'm always, like all of us, we do a lot of client appointments, and I was in one yesterday and we were talking about their income, and the client asked, like, how do I compare?
Mm.
And
that's
you get this question a lot,
Yep.
you know, like
Yeah.
I have this much income or this much assets. Like, how do I look? You know, I'm like, why? Why do you want to know the answer to that? You know, like I've got clients that are, you know, very low assets, super happy. And I've got clients that are very high assets, super happy. I got clients that are very low assets and miserable. And I have clients that have a ton of assets and miserable. Like, I don't even know how to grade it.
Right.
Mm.
You know,
Right.
because it is so personal. And when
Yep.
it comes to Social Security, it's kind of the same thing where you can have a client that they've got tons of assets and Social Security is a part, big or small. And then I've got clients that, I mean, we can do a whole show on how many clients that are retired that it took so much work on their part to follow the plan and so much work on our part to put the plan together. And that teamwork allowed them to retire on assets and income that other people would go, how?
Right.
And,
Right.
and retire ahead of time,
Right.
you know, using dividend income, using Social Security, timing, benefit strategies, like where they were able to retire and they live and they're happy and they come in and like, I've already been retired for 3 years, for 5 years, you know, and and everything's working. And I sit back and I'm like, well, I didn't do anything.
Right.
And then they're just reaping, you know, praise on this side. And you're like, well, you set the plan. I'm like, but you did the work.
Yeah,
Like
you
as a
did
coach,
all the heavy lifting.
Right. Right.
We just kind of gave some guidance.
Right.
At the end of the day, you had to say, we're going to do this, you know,
Yeah.
and walk out and actually go do it. Save the money, invest it, and believe in it.
So let's jump into when to take Social Security. So this is a big question.
Yep.
Okay. I would actually say this is bigger than the last episode that
Sure.
we did on Social Security, as if it's going to go away, which we'll touch on just a little bit in the end. So this question is, when should you take it? Now, let's let the cat out of the bag a little bit, because one of the questions that pop up is like, how do I maximize? And if you do a search, you know, ChatGPT or use some AI agent to figure out how to maximize Social Security statistically, if you wait,
Right.
it's always better.
Yeah.
It goes up a simple 8% per year. I don't think that math has changed. Somebody will check me on that. But, you know, it starts at, you know, whatever your FRA, which is full retirement age, and depending on what the year you were born and the month you were born will determine your FRA. And then that's your full retirement Social Security. Like that's the actual benefit.
Yeah.
If you retire early before that, it's a simple 8% deduction per year. So if it's like 65 in 2 months or 64 in 6 months, whatever FRA is, you just go back, you know, 1 year prior to that month, and it's 8% less and 8% less. That's a very simple way of looking at it. And then if you go forward, it's 8% more if you wait that year. So mathematically, if I wait, I get more.
I get more.
That's right.
And I
That
get
is-
that same amount, you know,
That's the math.
till I pass.
Predictable. if
That-
you will.
very
Yeah.
predictable,
Yeah.
very mathematical, no emotion.
Yep.
Right.
So, but the question is that smart?
Right.
Should you wait? So not thinking about simplicity yet, not thinking about dividend yet. So let's talk to those people out there that don't have simplicity, which
Yeah.
is our planning tool here, and don't use dividends, which is our hot topic that we talk about every show. Can't go a show even talking about Social Security where we don't bring in dividend income. So what do you tell the person out there? Like, should they wait? And let's not do a yes
No.
Well,
question on this one. Let's come up with a scenario where Social Security is like 50% of your retirement income. Should they wait?
I always say you should take it when you need it.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to say simplicity, but if you don't have a planning, tool that tells you when you need it,
Yeah.
Subscribe to the show.
subscribe to the show. But no, the
Shoot
answer
something in
is-
the chat.
And I didn't even mean to do that, but I so firmly feel that it's
Yeah.
when you need it.
Yeah.
And that is so personal. And it is, I don't want to make it sound complicated, but it is multiple variables. And you can't just look at it as 8%. It's just not that simple.
Well, the funny thing is, just to back up what you were saying, the
Yeah.
one question we should have asked when I presented it's 50%. What the first most logical question a planner would ask is, when are you going to retire?
Yes.
Right.
Were you 60? Were you 62? Were you 65? Were you 70?
Right.
So your question is when you need it.
When you need it.
So is your
When you
retirement
gonna
age
retire?
matching up
Yep.
to FRA? Is it like, I got to be done at 62? And then, you know, there's those situations where you're with a client and they're like not even in the 60s. They're like, yeah, I want to retire at 48,
Right.
you know, or
Yeah.
52. And you're like,
55 and you're
holy
like,
smokes. You know, that
Right.
as a planner, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, we got to figure this out. How much?
You've
How
been
much?
saving.
Yeah, because now we got issues with
Yeah, you
Roth
don't even
or
have the
traditional
55
IRA, and
Yeah.
you got penalty issues to deal with and non-qualified. And can we bridge what we call the gap?
Right.
Yep.
So
Sure,
there's all
fine.
kinds of like things that go instantly, like in your mind, which they're just thinking
You're sweating for 'em.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're like, we have enough assets, and you're thinking tax penalties
Yes.
and all this other
Yeah.
stuff.
I've tried to be better at just like, let's just take a deep breath and even see if it's possible first.
That's right.
We'll figure out the tax, penalty, all that later.
And one thing I've learned is being, a planner for so long, I'm getting older, and, I've been doing this for so long. I know when clients are going to ask a very important question, like, can I retire early or should I take Social Security? They're so intent. They're staring at every muscle in my face. And I got to answer without showing anything.
Yep.
Because internally, I'm like, I have no idea. Like, we got to update their simplicity. And we got to do this. We got
Let's see.
to talk taxes. We got to do this. And I can't show any of that.
Right.
Because
Right.
one of the two, if there's a husband and wife, you've got typically opposites attract. You got a very logical person and a very emotional person. And the emotional person is looking for the emotion on my face.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the logical person just wants to see the number.
Yeah. Show me the math.
So I'm like, and this has nothing to do with Social Security, but this is everything to do with Social Security.
Mhm.
Because sometimes the planner is showing emotion, not out of fear, but out of concern,
Mhm.
out of like, we got to make sure we're planning right because you can't get it wrong.
Right.
Yep.
Oh,
Because-
it's one of those decisions
Yeah.
that you
You can do it wrong, but you can't plan it wrong.
right.
You
Right.
know,
You
because
can do it wrong, but you can't plan it wrong.
Yeah, because the worst thing you can do is set somebody up for failure. So there is anxiety on our side because we don't want to do anything bad. We don't want to hurt anybody.
Yep.
And then sometimes we have to tell the truth in love, in emotion,
Right.
and not sometimes we have to tell the truth. Don't take that the wrong way.
No, but it's
We have to always tell
show
the
'em.
truth.
Tough
Yeah,
truth.
it's
Yeah.
But
showing 'em
sometimes
through
it's
planning.
the
The hard
truth
truth.
telling, the
Right.
hard truth of like, you can't.
I know you want to. But
Yeah. Or if you
Every time,
do,
yeah.
you have to be able to live on this.
And it's even worse when they truly are walking in really believing that they can,
Yeah.
the whole retiring early part. And they're really expecting you to say something different and more reassure them. And they just were looking for that final answer. That's when it
hard.
truly is. It really is. It's very hard.
Especially when the emotions like wrapped up in it. Like
Oh,
we were
yes.
talking the other day. It's somebody walks into your office and you're like, I'm done. You're like,
Right.
whoa, wait, when
Hang
we
on.
were just
Okay,
talking about,
let's-
yes.
let's have a conversation first.
Yeah.
Like-
So let's answer this because I feel like I went on a little tangent there.
We all helped you.
So when is the best time to take Social Security?
I mean, I think when you're truly done, when you're truly retired, not, hey, I'm going to slow down and maybe look for something different. I want to do some part-time stuff. It's like, no, I am truly done. I'm going to, enjoy my life, enjoy whatever retirement looks like to you. Because unfortunately, if you make too much in that part-time job,
Right.
you
you're
do
gonna
get
give-
penalized, and that's getting a little granular, but it really comes down to that when you're actually going to retire.
What were you
and
going
need
to say, Nikki?
No, when you're going to have to start tapping into your nest egg that frankly is generating you some income when I have this with my clients, but when you have to start cutting off branches,
Here we go.
here's some isms, but when you've got your tree and, the apples are just falling and we can't use apples because that's, I got some
What?
feedback on doing apples. That's another day. But when your investments are producing you
Fruit.
the fruit that you need. And when you're going to have to go cut down a branch, it might be nice to leverage that Social Security before you start doing that.
You ever said where somebody says something genuine like you just did and feel like there was an inside joke that you have no idea what?
Well, the apples in the Bible, and they're like, Nick,
Ah.
yeah. So that's why I didn't,
Okay, sorry.
they were busting my
Still
chops a little.
confused on that.
All right.
Well, the apple is falling. When you have the tree, the fruit falls. Some would say it's the cash, and some would say it was leaves.
So
'cause
let
it's
me
simplicity.
say that a different way because I
Please
think
do.
I understand what you're getting at. When I get asked this question, when should I take Social Security? My default answer, and there's two things I'm going to say here. My default answer is first, take it when you need it
When you
because
need
that's going to be the most conservative because you're not maximizing it. You're not going to wait. However, in order to answer that question, you have to answer another question. Where do I want the stress to be? Because if you take Social Security and you maximize it, not you take it, you defer it. Say, well, I'm going to retire at 60, whatever, 4, 5, 6, but I'm going to wait till 70. Now you have to take all the income that you need out of your own assets, putting stress on your portfolio so that Social Security will be maximized. If you take Social Security early, you are taking stress off of your portfolio that could potentially grow, generate more, reinvest, who knows, depending on the percentage of that. Now you're putting the stress on Social Security, and that question is it going to be there? But the question remains no matter what. Is Social Security going to be there if I take it early? Is it going to be there if I take it late? We're going to address that in a second. But the reality is those are, I think, the two
That's well said.
most basic, like if you were to strip away all the layers of the onion, I just want to know that.
Yep.
Like take it when you need it, which is basically take it when you retire, as long as you're 62 or older, that you can, because you can't take it before 62 and you never want to push it beyond 70.
No sense. Right.
So there's the 8-year frame. And then where do you want the stress?
Right.
Do you want to put the stress on your own money, or do you want to put stress on Social Security and release the stress on your own asset? That's a highly personal question. The right answer is yes.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing you got to remember is all of that deferral of income or Social Security income that you were going to get. How long does it take to recoup that at that higher amount? Say you do wait till 70, and then heaven forbid you die early,
Right.
ish, whatever that is. Like, this is not a pension or an annuity that goes to your, to your heirs. This is money that you get the benefit while you're living, and then that's it. It just stays in the pot.
Right.
So, it's something, another little piece that you have to remember. By deferring it, you're waiting much longer
To
catch up,
Yeah.
and you're using all of your assets that could have been kind of reinvesting or
And
whatever
there
else.
we go back to the go,
Go.
slow go, no go.
Yeah.
When do you want to spend your money? Do you want to spend it when you're in your 60s and you got your health and you want to go? Do you want to spend it in your 70s, or you want to spend it in your 80s? Because it's the go, slow go, no go. At the end of the day, I mean, some people no, I have longevity in my life. Everybody has died in their 90s or hundreds. Well, that's a different conversation, because deferring and putting a little stress on your assets might actually be more beneficial. We could argue. And I want to see the math. And that's where I don't want to use simplicity, but not that I don't, but I'm trying to help people that don't have it. Obviously, we advocate very clearly for that, because at the end of the day, you got to map it all out.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you don't map it out, you're just assuming.
Well, and when it comes to legacy and something that is so hard to predict, and you're coming off of the person who just lost their dad, so at 73, that's way too soon. How much would he have gotten had he? But I had a client mention this, and it's when you talk legacy, it's so vivid. They're like, at least you have the tree if you take it too early, and you're doing the math, because it's a guaranteed 8%. And they're like, but if you wait and then you die, when somebody dies, this was actually a really interesting talk about an analogy. You literally are ripping the tree out of the ground and throwing it. There's no branches. There's none. Did that make any sense?
Yeah, it's dead.
It's completely dead. They're like, forget the fruit, the whole stinking tree. It's gone. And I'm like, okay, you're getting this. You're coming into my next meeting, because it made it make so much sense, because the whole 8% thing came up, because people, again, want to do the math. 8%, it's a guaranteed 8%. But then, and then the spouse said,
simple, not
There's
no
cumulative.
compounding interest.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we are clear on that.
Yeah.
no, that's true. That's true. So that's where the conversation came up. And the spouse said, yeah, but you're literally ripping that tree Nikki's talking about, and you're throwing it out the window. So at least you have that. If one of the years falls below 6, or below 8, say it's 6, but you still have the tree. And I thought it was a really good example, because they want to do the math every year on, did it beat 8? And otherwise, if they delayed it, or if they
dividends
took
compound, Social Security does not.
Yeah.
exactly.
So
But
you
and they
don't need
said,
that 8.
if it was 6 instead of 8 that year,
But a compounded 6 would probably beat a simple 8 all day long.
exactly. That's where the whole conversation went.
Exactly.
Math.
Well, and I was trying to say that, because how many people say, but it's a guaranteed 8%?
It is.
It is, but it's not
But
that
guaranteed is
Yeah.
easy. It's
is a
guaranteed
funky
on
question.
what base?
I would say it's not going away. We had the show on this, and we'll touch on this for a few seconds,
Yeah.
a few minutes.
Oh, talk about-
Is Social Security going to go away?
It could look different, but it's not going to go away.
It ain't going away.
No, yeah.
We may-
No one's running on that.
No.
It's trying to get reelected
talk
ever.
about assassination.
What
Let's
is
bring
that?
that word
Whoa.
up. But talk about getting
Whoa.
assassinated.
Hey.
The president that does that is going to get assassinated.
What the
that's
heck?
congressional.
I had a
Now we
client
just
say-
got one on all
I
kinds
know.
of issues.
Sorry.
We just got red flags. What the
I
heck?
won't say the client that said that, but it's true. They're like, I don't believe it's going to go away, because I've been paying for it, and I'd want to do something I shouldn't do. And I'm like, Wow.
All right.
Come on. Don't
Hey,
act
we
like
don't
you've never-
sponsor or support
Yes.
certain things that have been said on today's show.
Yes. God, you just love getting me fired up. All right, next
Just
topic.
know that's to Congress that has to decide that.
All right.
boy.
Well, on that note,
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't personally think Social Security is going to go
No.
away. I don't
No.
think anybody would stay in office, let alone anything else,
Live. Yeah.
who would run on an agenda where Social Security would be taken away, even for the rich. You know, like how do you even figure that out? Because, you know, one of the big topics that's been in our office lately has been this tax map, you know, some software to reduce taxes. The rich can potentially shelter their income because they have so much, where they don't show
Right.
a whole lot of taxable income, where they can literally still collect, because in the eyes of the government, they're not being shown any tax, even though they're making all this income over here. They're
Mhm.
able to shelter it because they have money to spend and they can do different things and they can still collect it.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that
They
becomes
can keep
in
it
and
in
of
their
itself like
businesses and all
that
kinds
becomes
of
a
stuff.
science. Like
Yeah.
how do you
Yep.
measure wealth and how do you measure income when smart people, wealthy people know how to do things? That's why they got money.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, that means testing becomes even more difficult on
Mm.
Social Security.
Yeah.
Because
And they
you
already
can
have
hide
a
stuff.
ceiling on how much is even going into the Social Security of your income, right?
Correct.
Isn't it like 185,000?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
wealthy doesn't even matter.
It doesn't like they're
'Cause
like
once
we're
you
done
make up
paying
on
that.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get it back.
Correct.
So, all right. Well, we had a whole nother show on
Yeah.
that one. I
Don't
don't.
wanna run
None
down
of
that
us
rabbit
think it's going away.
Yeah.
Last thoughts on really the thing on timing for Social Security.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's going to really, I think the driving factor is when are you ready to slow down? When are you ready to start pulling from your own assets or pension, kind of start triggering those things, or what you would just call retirement? When are you actually done? And then that's where you'd start that conversation of how best to maximize your Social Security or when to take it.
Anybody else?
I would echo that. I mean, when you need it and when you're going to have to start tapping into your nest egg.
It just has to be part of the plan, right? Like you got to build a plan around it to make sure how does it fit into that plan. If I were just to listen to my grandfather, he'd say, "Don't let them have it. Take it immediately." That was his advice.
You've paid
Grab
into it.
now.
Yeah.
That's right. I paid into it
Get
all
it.
these years. Give it to me now.
You know how to
But that's
manage
not always the
money.
right answer.
I love it. I love that. And what I would say is, if you have any other Social Security related questions or dividend related questions or anything like that, please email us or subscribe to the show and put the comments down below, or questions down below. We'd love to take shows and answer any questions that our clients have or non-clients. So hopefully you enjoyed today.